The spaceship Aurora glided silently through the dark expanse of space, its hull gleaming under the distant light of a sun no human had ever seen before. Inside, the human crew bustled with quiet excitement. For decades, humanity had dreamed of reaching distant stars, and now they were here. Veyara, a planet of sapphire oceans, glowing forests, and skies that shifted color with the time of day. It was breathtaking, so much more beautiful than any hologram or simulation could ever show. Eli stood at the observation window, staring out at the alien landscape below. His eyes were wide, almost childlike with wonder. The planet seemed alive, not just in the way that plants and creatures moved, but in the way the air itself shimmered with color. "It's perfect," he whispered to himself. Behind him, footsteps echoed softly on the metal floor. He turned to see Lyra approaching. She had arrived from a distant human colony several light years away, and she carried with her the elegance and confidence of someone accustomed to attention. Today, she was wearing a ceremonial dress designed specifically for the welcoming event. The fabric shifted colors subtly, responding to the emotions of the person wearing it. To Eli, it looked like the night sky itself had been woven into cloth. "Eli," she said, her voice light and teasing, "do you think I look nice in this dress?" Eli blinked. His heart skipped a beat. He opened his mouth to speak, but found that words felt small compared to what he wanted to say. The dress glimmered as she moved, faint waves of light rippling like water, and the human part of him, the part that felt and admired, was instantly captivated. "Honestly, I can't stop staring at you," he said. His voice was quiet, but he didn't care. Lyra laughed softly, a sound as delicate as the wind through alien leaves outside. She tilted her head, curious and amused. "That's very human of you," she said, her eyes sparkling with playful amusement. "You always say what you feel." Eli shrugged, suddenly feeling awkward but also proud. He had always admired humans for being able to feel deeply, and now, here among the stars, he realized how rare and precious that ability truly was. While other species relied on logic, protocol, or rules, humans were guided by admiration, wonder, and curiosity. That was a strength no machine or alien intelligence could replicate. The shuttle doors hissed open, and the two of them were guided out into the alien city. Veyara's capital was unlike any city Eli had ever seen. The buildings were tall but organic, growing upward like living trees. Bridges of light connected towers, and strange creatures, most of them more curious than threatening, glided through the air. The streets were lined with alien inhabitants, their forms elegant and geometric, yet their eyes were filled with a sharp, almost mechanical intelligence. Eli felt a small pang of nervousness. The aliens were observing everything, the humans, their gestures, their words. He had been told before arriving that the Veyarans valued efficiency, logic, and order above all. Emotions were considered messy, dangerous even. Lyra noticed his hesitation. She reached out, lightly touching his arm. "Relax," she said, smiling. "We humans have something they don't, curiosity, and the courage to show it." He smiled back, heartened by her confidence. She had a way of making everything seem easier, of turning fear into fascination. Together, they walked through the city toward the central plaza, where the welcoming ceremony would begin. The plaza was a marvel. The floor itself glowed faintly under their feet, patterned with symbols that seemed to pulse with the life of the planet. At the center stood a massive structure that looked like a crystal tree, its branches stretching high above, sparkling with every color imaginable. Around it, Veyarans moved gracefully, their gestures precise, almost dance-like. They spoke in soft, melodic tones that Eli could not understand, but somehow the meaning of their communication reached him through rhythm and pattern. Lyra leaned closer. It's amazing, isn't it? She whispered. Eli nodded, unable to take his eyes off the scene. It's beautiful, but strange, so different from anything we know. She smiled knowingly. That's the point. Humans thrive in the unknown. That's why we're here, Eli, to show them us. As the humans reached the central plaza, a hush fell over the crowd. The Veyarans stopped moving, their eyes turning toward the newcomers. Eli felt a twinge of anxiety. Their silence was not menacing, but it was intensely focused, as if they were analyzing every micro-expression on his face. Every heartbeat, every blink, every breath seemed to be recorded. Lyra, sensing his tension, straightened. Her dress shimmered in response to her excitement, sending waves of soft blue and green across her shoulders. She walked confidently forward, and Eli followed. He realized then that the aliens were not only observing, they were learning. They were curious about humans in a way that was almost childlike, yet filtered through centuries of their own calculated intelligence. One of the alien leaders stepped forward. Its form was tall and crystalline, limbs bending at angles humans would call impossible. Its voice resonated in a harmonic frequency, almost musical. Eli could not understand the words, but he sensed the meaning. Welcome, observe, learn. Eli took a deep breath and raised his hand in a human gesture of greeting. Lyra mirrored him, and for the first time, the alien's attention shifted. It was subtle, but Eli noticed. They were intrigued by these emotional expressions, by gestures that carried no practical purpose other than connection. He turned to Lyra, and she gave him a reassuring nod. It was a silent acknowledgement. This was why humans were different. The ability to feel, to admire, to notice beauty. These were not weaknesses. They were gifts. The ceremony began. Humans and aliens stood side by side, and Eli found himself explaining simple human customs to the Veyarans, the meaning of a smile, the way laughter could bridge distance, the quiet power of admiration. He gestured toward Lyra, whose dress now glimmered brighter as she walked among the aliens. Look at that, he whispered to himself. That's human. The aliens observed her carefully, tilting their heads, analyzing the interplay of color and emotion. Some of them even tried to imitate the subtle shifts, though their expressions remained rigid, almost comical to human eyes. Eli laughed softly, and the sound itself seemed to ripple through the plaza. It was the first human laughter the Veyarans had ever heard in person. Lyra glanced at him and smiled. See? They're learning already, she said. Eli nodded, heart swelling with pride. He realized that this was why humans had survived for so long, why they had thrived. It was not strength, speed, or intelligence alone. It was curiosity. It was the ability to see the world with awe, to admire it, to connect with others in ways that went beyond logic. As the ceremony ended, Eli and Lyra were guided to a balcony overlooking the city. The sun, or what passed for a sun on this planet, was setting, painting the sky in deep shades of violet and gold. Eli could not tear his eyes away. Lyra stood beside him, the colors of her dress shifting gently with the breeze. "Do you see now?" she asked softly. He turned to her, awe still in his eyes. "Yes," he said. "And I can't stop staring at you." Lyra laughed again, light and melodic. "That's okay," she said. "That's very human of you." For a moment, they simply watched the world together, two humans standing on a distant planet, surrounded by beings who could never fully understand them. Yet in that moment, it did not matter. Their humanity, their emotions, admiration, and wonder was enough. And Eli knew deep in his heart that this was only the beginning. The morning sun rose slowly over Veyara, painting the sky with soft orange and pink hues. Eli and Lyra stood on the balcony of the human embassy, overlooking the city. The alien architecture shimmered in the dawn light, their crystal-like towers reflecting colors in ways humans had no names for. Eli took a deep breath. Every moment on this planet felt like stepping into a painting, alive and moving in ways he could not predict. Yet he felt a strange sense of comfort with Lyra beside him. She had a quiet confidence, the kind that made even the most unfamiliar place feel like home. "Are you nervous?" she asked softly, noticing the way his hands fidgeted on the railing. "Not exactly nervous," Eli admitted. "More curious, and maybe a little out of place. They watch everything we do, and I feel like I'm under a microscope." Lyra laughed gently. "They are curious, yes, but they are not here to harm us. They just want to understand us." Eli frowned slightly. "Understand us? But how? They don't even feel emotions like we do. They can't understand admiration, friendship, or beauty." Lyra tilted her head and smiled. "Maybe not yet, but that's why we're here, to show them that these things are not weaknesses. They are strengths." Eli looked at her, amazed. She seemed so certain, so calm. "Strengths?" he asked. "How can emotions be strengths?" "Humans have something no other species has," she said quietly. "The ability to connect, to admire, to care, to notice beauty in others. That makes us powerful in ways they can't measure." He stared at her, feeling a warm rush in his chest. It was true, he realized. That moment yesterday, when he looked at Lyra in her shimmering dress and could not stop staring, he had been acting on something deep, something uniquely human. A machine or an alien might calculate data, but only a human could be moved by awe, by admiration, by curiosity. "Then I guess I've been powerful without knowing it," he said, smiling sheepishly. Lyra laughed, the sound gentle and light. "Exactly, and now we need to share that power." They spent the morning walking through the city, introducing themselves to the aliens. Each interaction was a lesson, both for the humans and the Veorans. Eli found himself explaining small human gestures, the way a smile could calm tension, the way a shared laugh could build trust, the way admiration could inspire courage. At first, the aliens were confused. They tilted their heads, mimicked the gestures awkwardly, and emitted low harmonic sounds. Their attempts were stiff, precise, almost comical. Eli couldn't help laughing, and to his surprise, the aliens watched him closely, studying his reaction. Even in their confusion, they were learning. Lyra took his hand as they moved through the plaza. "See?" she whispered. "Even if they don't understand it yet, they are noticing. They are watching how we respond." Eli nodded, feeling a sense of wonder. "It's strange," he admitted. "I feel like I'm performing. But at the same time, I'm just being myself." "That's the point," Lyra said. "Being yourself is the most human thing you can do. That's what makes us, us." By midday, the humans were invited to a cultural exchange event, held in one of the tallest towers in the city. The interior was vast and open, with floors made of translucent material that glowed faintly underfoot. Alien musicians played strange instruments, creating harmonies that resonated through the room. Eli had never heard sounds like these before, but the music was beautiful, stirring something deep inside him. Lyra moved gracefully through the crowd, her dress glowing softly with every step. The colors shifted according to her emotions, casting gentle waves of light onto the walls. Eli couldn't help but watch her, mesmerized. She was more than a person in a dress. She was an expression of humanity itself, radiant and alive. "Eli," Lyra said, noticing his gaze, "don't just stare, join in." He hesitated. "Join in? But I don't know the music, the dance." "Exactly," she said with a smile. "You don't have to know." Humans have a way of connecting that doesn't need instruction. Just feel it. With a deep breath, Eli closed his eyes and allowed himself to move with the music. At first, his movements were awkward, but gradually, he felt the rhythm and let his body respond. Laughter bubbled from him. Light and free, and Lyra mirrored him, creating a subtle harmony between them. The aliens watched in silence. Some tilted their heads, others emitted harmonic tones that Eli could only guess were their versions of laughter. Slowly, a few of them began to move in response, tentative but curious. They were learning, not by logic, but by observing human emotion in action. Eli glanced at Lyra. "This is amazing," he whispered. "They're actually trying to understand us." Lyra nodded. "It's not easy, but we're planting a seed. One day they might truly appreciate what humans are capable of." As the event continued, Eli realized something profound. It wasn't just about teaching aliens about human gestures or emotions. It was about showing them that the world could be experienced in ways they had never imagined. Humans did not only calculate and measure, they admired, felt, and connected. And that ability, he now understood, could change everything. Later, as the sun began to set, Eli and Lyra found themselves on a balcony overlooking the city once again. The towers glowed with the soft light of evening, and the alien sky was painted with deep shades of purple and silver. Lyra leaned on the railing, her dress shimmering with the fading sunlight. "Do you see it?" she asked softly. "Do you see what we humans bring to the universe?" Eli turned to her, his eyes reflecting the colors around them. "I do," he said, "and I can't stop thinking about it, about us, about how we feel and how we connect." Lyra smiled, reaching out to touch his hand. "That's why we are here, Eli. Not just to explore new worlds, but to remind them that there's more than logic, more than rules. There's beauty and admiration and curiosity. That's what makes humans special." For a moment they stood in silence, watching the city below. The aliens had started to mimic some of the gestures they had demonstrated, tentative yet curious. Eli felt a surge of pride. Humans were not just visitors to this planet. They were teachers, guides, and ambassadors of something far greater than technology or strength. "Lyra," Eli said finally, breaking the silence, "do you ever wonder if they will truly understand us?" She looked at him, her eyes bright with quiet certainty. "Perhaps not fully," she said, "but they will learn enough to see that we are different, and that difference is something to be respected." Eli smiled. "Then let's show them more." Lyra nodded. And together they stepped back into the tower, ready for the next stage of their mission. Every smile, every gesture, every moment of admiration was a lesson. And for Eli, every moment with Lyra was a reminder of why humans were unique, not just in their strength or intelligence, but in their ability to feel, to admire, and to connect. As night fell over Vayara, the city sparkled like a constellation on the ground. Eli looked at Lyra once more, her dress glowing softly in the moonlight. "Honestly," he whispered, "I still can't stop staring at you." She laughed softly, a sound like wind through glass. "That's very human of you," she said, "and I think it's exactly what we need to teach them." Eli nodded, feeling a quiet sense of hope. This was only the beginning. Humans were far from the strongest species, far from the most advanced. But in the simple act of feeling, admiring, and connecting, they had already begun to change the universe. And that, he realized, was a power no one could take away. The next morning on Vayara was crisp and quiet. Eli awoke to the soft glow of alien sunlight streaming through the embassy windows. Lyra was already awake, standing near the balcony, watching the city below. Her dress, even in morning light, shimmered softly with gentle waves of blue and green. "Good morning," Eli said, stretching and rubbing his eyes. "Good morning," Lyra replied with a small smile. "Are you ready for today?" Eli's stomach tightened. Today was the day they would attend the formal council of Vayara, where the leaders of the alien planet gathered to discuss interstellar affairs. This meeting was unlike the casual demonstrations they had done before. It was high level, and Eli felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his chest. "I think so," he said, "but I'm nervous. What if they don't understand us? What if they see our emotions as weakness?" Lyra turned to him, her eyes firm yet kind. "That's exactly why we are going, Eli. Humans are not just about strength or intelligence, our feelings, our ability to admire, to connect. That is what makes us strong. If they can see that, even just a little, we'll succeed." Eli nodded, trying to absorb her confidence. He had always admired her ability to remain calm, even in situations that seemed overwhelming. It was part of why he couldn't stop staring at her the day they arrived, the quiet power of someone who understood herself fully. The council chamber was unlike anything Eli had imagined. Towering crystalline structures formed the walls, and soft light refracted through them, creating a spectrum of colors that danced across the floor. The aliens sat in a circle around a central platform, their postures precise, almost geometric, yet their presence was imposing. Eli felt a flicker of fear. He had never spoken to an entire council of alien leaders before. Lyra, noticing his hesitation, reached for his hand. "Together," she whispered. When they stepped onto the platform, the room fell into silence. The council's eyes, or the closest approximation of eyes given the crystalline forms, turned toward them. Eli felt the familiar tension of being observed, studied, every micro-expression noted. One of the council members, taller and brighter than the others, emitted a harmonic tone that resonated through the chamber. Eli could not understand the words, but he felt the meaning. Speak, explain, prove. Lyra stepped forward, her dress glowing faintly, rippling with the subtle excitement she felt. "Esteemed leaders," she began, her voice calm and clear, "we come not only to learn about Vayara, but also to share what makes humans unique. We understand that you value logic, precision, and efficiency, but humans have a power you may not fully understand." She paused, letting her words sink in. Eli felt a rush of admiration. Lyra had a way of speaking that was both gentle and firm, a combination that demanded attention without force. "That power," she continued, "is the ability to feel, to admire, to connect. Humans can experience awe, friendship, and beauty in ways that inspire action and creativity. These abilities are not weaknesses. They are strengths that have allowed humanity to survive and thrive." Eli watched the council carefully. Some members tilted slightly, emitting harmonic tones that he guessed were their version of acknowledgement. Others remained still, expressionless, yet focused. Then came the challenge. One of the council members stepped forward, its form shifting slightly, refracting light in sharp angles. Its tone was sharp, questioning. Why should emotions matter? How can admiration or beauty influence anything practical? Eli felt a flicker of panic. How could he explain something so deeply human in terms these beings could understand? Lyra sensed his hesitation and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Show them," she whispered. "Don't explain, show them." Eli took a deep breath. Slowly, he turned to Lyra. "Do you remember yesterday, during the music?" he asked softly. "When we laughed and moved together?" Lyra nodded. "I remember." "Then watch," Eli said. He turned back to the council. "This is what humans do. We feel, we admire, we connect, and it changes the world around us." He began to move, not in dance, not in imitation of the aliens, but in pure expression. His arms swept gently, His feet shifted with rhythm only he could feel. Lyra joined him, her dress glowing in response to her emotions, casting soft waves of light across the chamber. At first, the council remained still, observing. But slowly, something remarkable happened. Some of the younger members, those whose forms were smaller and less rigid, began to mimic, not the movements, but the spirit of them. They tried to sway, to create a rhythm, tentative but curious. Eli felt his heart swell. The aliens were learning, not by rules, not by calculation, but by observing human emotion in action. Lyra moved closer to him, her dress shimmering brighter. "See?" she whispered. "They're starting to understand." Eli glanced at the council leader. The bright crystalline figure had tilted slightly, its harmonic tone resonating in a softer, almost gentle pattern. It was a signal Eli recognized: acknowledgement, interest, perhaps even admiration. The challenge was far from over. Another council member spoke in tones sharp and questioning again. "What about conflict? Emotions can lead to chaos. How do you prevent destruction?" Eli hesitated, then smiled. "Because we admire each other," he said simply. "Because we care. We notice beauty in the world and in each other. That makes us want to protect, to create, to explore. That is our strength." He looked at Lyra. "You, for example," he added softly. "You inspire courage. You inspire me. And I think humans inspire the universe, just by being human." Lyra's eyes softened, and she reached for his hand. "Exactly," she whispered. "And now they see it too." The council fell silent again. For the first time, Eli felt that he had not just survived the scrutiny, but had shared something meaningful. The aliens may never fully understand human emotion, but they could recognize its effects, the way it created connection, inspired action, and shaped behavior. After what felt like hours, the council leader emitted a harmonic tone that Eli interpreted as approval. Others followed in sequence, a soft chorus that filled the chamber. Eli realized they had passed the first test. They had shown that human emotions were not chaotic, they were powerful. Lyra turned to him, a proud smile on her face. "You did well," she said quietly. "You did more than well," Eli replied. "You showed me, and them too, what humans can do." As they left the council chamber, Eli felt a sense of triumph. This was only the beginning, but it was proof that humans could make a difference. Not through force, not through technology alone, but through something far subtler and deeper: admiration, connection, and courage. Outside, the city was bathed in the soft glow of afternoon light. Eli and Lyra walked together through the streets, observing the Veyarans around them. Some of the younger aliens practiced the gestures and movements they had demonstrated, awkward but clearly trying to understand. Eli smiled. It was a small step, but it mattered. "Do you think they'll ever fully understand us?" Eli asked, glancing at Lyra. She shook her head slightly, smiling. "Maybe not fully, but they'll learn enough to respect us, and sometimes that's all that matters." They paused at the edge of a plaza, where a fountain of glowing liquid spiraled into the air. Eli leaned against the railing, feeling the warmth of human pride and the thrill of discovery. "Lyra," he said softly, "thank you for showing me how powerful we are." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the liquid light. "We always were," she said. "We just needed someone to notice and someone to remind others." Eli smiled, his heart light. The challenge of the council had tested them, but it had also revealed something extraordinary. Humans could move others, even beings who had never experienced emotion, simply by being themselves. And as they watched the alien city glow beneath the evening sky, Eli realized something else. Humans were not just visitors to this world. They were teachers, guides, and examples of a strength that could not be measured with numbers or equations. A strength born from feeling, admiration, and connection. Honestly, Eli whispered, glancing at Lyra once more, I still can't stop staring at you. Lyra laughed softly, the sound a gentle echo in the plaza. That's very human of you, she said, and I think it's exactly what the universe needs. Eli felt hope well up inside him. There would be more challenges ahead, more tests of understanding and connection. But for now, he knew that humanity had already begun to leave its mark, not with force, but with awe, admiration, and courage. And that, he realized, was a power no one, not even the stars themselves, could ignore. The next few days on Veyara passed in a blur of light, color, and learning. Eli and Lyra had begun their most important work yet, helping the Veyarans understand the human way of seeing the world, not with words alone, but with feelings, gestures, and shared experiences. Eli found himself constantly amazed. Even the smallest human actions, the tilt of a head, a smile, a look of admiration, had profound effects on the aliens. The younger Veyarans were beginning to mimic them, some even experimenting with gestures that conveyed curiosity or awe. Though awkward, these attempts held promise, a spark that could grow. Lyra had become a teacher in her own right. She guided Eli and the younger humans through demonstrations of music, art, and simple acts of kindness. Her dress shimmered with colors that shifted with her emotions, making every gesture vivid and alive. The aliens watched with fascination, sometimes tilting or refracting their bodies to mirror her movements. It was subtle, but Eli noticed the change. Look at them, Lyra whispered one morning as they observed a group of young Veyarans practicing laughter. They're beginning to understand what we humans do naturally. Eli nodded. It's incredible. Just a few days ago, they couldn't even smile, and now they're trying. Lyra laughed softly. That's the power of human emotion. It spreads, it inspires, and it can change a civilization. Their work soon led them to the central plaza, where a special event had been arranged. The Veyaran leaders wanted to see a full demonstration of human emotional expression, what Eli and Lyra had been teaching. The plaza was filled with thousands of aliens, all waiting to observe. Eli felt a surge of nerves. This was no longer a private lesson or a small group demonstration. This was a public display, a test of everything they had taught. Lyra touched his arm. Remember, she said, her voice calm, just be yourselves. Let them see humans as we truly are. Eli swallowed hard and nodded. They stepped forward together. Lyra's dress glowed faintly in response to her anticipation. Soft waves of gold and blue lighting the plaza. Eli felt his own excitement ripple through him. He had never felt so alive, so connected to another person and to an entire planet at the same time. Lyra began first, moving gracefully through the crowd. Her gestures were simple, a tilt of the head, a smile, a gentle wave. The dress shimmered with her emotions, each color conveying a subtle message of curiosity, admiration, and warmth. The Veyarans watched closely, some tilting, some emitting harmonic tones that Eli had come to recognize as curiosity or interest. Then Eli joined her. He moved in ways that felt natural, guided by emotion rather than rules. His movements were not perfect or precise. They were human, and that was exactly the point. Laughter bubbled from him, spontaneous and light, and Lyra mirrored him, creating harmony that seemed to ripple through the plaza. Something remarkable happened. The Veyarans began to respond. At first, the younger ones tried to imitate the gestures, awkward and tentative. Then, slowly, some of the adults followed, copying not the exact movements but the spirit of connection, the admiration, the curiosity, the joy. Eli's heart leapt. It was working. Lyra turned to him, eyes sparkling. "Do you see it?" she whispered. "They're starting to feel it, not just observe it." Eli nodded, overwhelmed by the beauty of the moment. "It's amazing," he said. "They're learning. They're really learning." As the demonstration continued, Eli realized that this was the first time the Veyarans had experienced human emotion in action. For them, feelings had always been irrelevant, inefficient, or even dangerous. But here, in the soft glow of Lyra's dress and the rhythm of human movement, the aliens were beginning to understand that emotion could inspire creativity, collaboration, and connection. The moment reached its peak when Lyra lifted her arms, allowing her dress to glow fully, casting waves of light across the plaza. Eli moved beside her, and the two of them created a dance not of steps or rules, but of feeling. The aliens watched, mesmerized. The colors of the dress reflected in their crystalline bodies, and for the first time, Eli thought he saw awe in their forms. A small Veyaran child stepped forward, attempting to mirror their movements. The child's actions were clumsy, but it was trying. Not because it was told to, but because it wanted to. Eli felt a warm rush of pride. This was what humans did: inspire others to want to try, to connect, to feel. Lyra reached out to the child's hand, her smile gentle and encouraging. The child's crystalline form shimmered as it moved, and Eli realized something incredible. The aliens were not just copying, they were beginning to feel. "Do you see what we're doing?" Lyra asked, her voice soft. "We're teaching them to admire, to care, to connect. That's why humans are special." Eli looked around. The plaza was alive with subtle motion, gentle laughter, and harmonic tones that seemed less rigid than before. The aliens were learning to be influenced by emotion, to let admiration and curiosity guide their actions. It was a transformation, slow but unmistakable. By the time the sun began to set, the entire plaza glowed with light and color. Humans and aliens moved together in harmony, a quiet celebration of connection. Eli felt a sense of awe he could barely describe. Humans had survived and thrived for so long because of these abilities: the ability to inspire, to admire, to notice beauty, and to connect with others. And now, on this distant planet, those same abilities were transforming an entire species. Lyra turned to him, eyes soft in the fading light. "Eli," she said, "do you understand now why our mission matters? Not just for us, but for the universe?" He nodded slowly, feeling the truth of her words settle deep in his heart. "Yes, humans aren't just explorers or diplomats. We're ambassadors of emotion. We can change the world, and maybe even other worlds, simply by being ourselves." Lyra smiled, placing her hand over his. "Exactly. And never forget, Eli, that admiration, curiosity, and care, these are our greatest strengths. They cannot be measured, but they can be felt, and they can transform everything." Eli felt a warmth in his chest as he watched the aliens around him. Some were trying to mimic human laughter, others were tilting their heads in curiosity, experimenting with new gestures. And some, he realized with a quiet thrill, were experiencing admiration for the first time. It was subtle, but it was there. The transformation had begun. As night fell, the city sparkled with light from the glowing towers, and Eli and Lyra stood together on a balcony overlooking the plaza. The air was filled with soft, harmonic tones, laughter, and the gentle hum of life learning something new. Eli glanced at Lyra, his admiration still strong but now deeper. "Honestly," he whispered, "I still can't stop staring at you." Lyra laughed softly, the sound blending with the music and lights of the plaza. "That's very human of you," she said, "and it's exactly what makes us who we are." Eli nodded, feeling hope and pride swell inside him. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest, or the most advanced. But in the simple act of feeling, admiring, and connecting, they had begun to change the world around them. And that, he realized, was a power greater than anything else in the galaxy. As they turned to leave the balcony, Eli felt a quiet certainty. The transformation of Vayara was only beginning. Humans had arrived not just as visitors, but as guides, demonstrating the subtle and extraordinary strength of emotion. And through it all, the bond between him and Lyra had grown stronger, each shared look, gesture, and smile reinforcing the truth he had always known. Human admiration and connection were extraordinary gifts. For the first time, Eli felt that the universe itself might be ready to learn from humans, not because of their strength, but because of their heart. And for Eli and Lyra, that was more than enough. The morning sun rose over Vayara, casting a soft golden glow across the city. Eli and Lyra stood on the balcony of the embassy, looking down at the central plaza. The air was filled with quiet excitement. Today was the day of the grand celebration, a ceremony organized by the Vayarans to honor the humans for their contributions and the lessons they had shared. Eli felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. This celebration was not just a gesture of thanks. It was a recognition that humans had brought something extraordinary to the planet, the ability to admire, to connect, and to inspire. Lyra noticed his tense expression. "Relax," she said gently, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We didn't just teach them gestures or movements. We showed them the heart of humanity. That's what matters." Eli smiled, taking a deep breath. "I know. It's just seeing it all together, the entire city, the entire planet acknowledging it. It feels unreal." Lyra chuckled softly. "It's humanly unreal. That's why it's perfect." The two of them descended into the plaza, where thousands of Vayarans had gathered. The plaza glowed with a soft, multicolored light that shimmered under the crystalline towers. The younger Vayarans moved among the crowd, attempting gestures of admiration, curiosity, and joy they had learned from Eli and Lyra. The older ones observed carefully, their rigid forms subtly reflecting light in patterns that seemed almost like smiles. Eli could hardly believe his eyes. The aliens, who had once been so rigid and logical, were now experimenting with emotion, learning to appreciate beauty, laughter, and connection. He glanced at Lyra, who was watching with a serene smile. "We did this together," he whispered. "Yes," she replied. "Humans always do better together." The ceremony began with music, unlike anything Eli had ever heard before. The alien instruments, once strange and distant, now carried a new resonance. They attempted to mimic human laughter, human rhythm, and human warmth. The resulting sound was strange but beautiful, a combination of alien precision and human heart. Lyra's dress glowed softly as she moved through the crowd, her gestures subtle but filled with emotion. Eli followed, and together they created a quiet harmony of movement and feeling. The Vayarans watched intently, learning not from instruction, but from observation. It was a living demonstration of the human gift, connection through emotion. At one point, a young Vayaran child approached Eli, tilting its head curiously. The child's crystalline body shimmered as it attempted a gesture Eli had demonstrated days ago, a small bow of admiration. Eli knelt slightly, returning the gesture with warmth and encouragement. The child's light pulsed brightly, a clear sign of joy. Lyra knelt beside him, taking the child's hand. "See," she whispered. "They are learning to admire, to feel, to connect. That's the human way." Eli nodded, his heart swelling. Humans had always survived not through brute strength, but through curiosity, empathy, and admiration. Now on Vayara, those same qualities were transforming an entire civilization. The leaders of Vayara stepped forward, their crystalline forms glowing with recognition. One of the tallest emitted harmonic tones that resonated deeply in Eli's chest. Though he could not understand the exact words, he sensed the meaning: respect, acknowledgement, and gratitude. The humans had succeeded. Lyra smiled at Eli, a quiet pride shining in her eyes. "We've done more than teach them gestures," she said. "We've given them a glimpse of humanity itself." Eli felt a warmth spread through him. All the training, all the nervousness, all the small moments of connection, everything had led to this. Humanity's ability to admire, to connect, and to feel had been recognized by an entire alien world. As the ceremony continued, Eli noticed the subtle ways the Veyarans had changed. Some moved with less rigidity, attempting gestures of human curiosity. Others tilted their forms as if observing beauty. Even the harmonic tones they emitted had become softer, warmer, more expressive. Eli realized with quiet awe that this was the beginning of a transformation that could last for generations. Lyra reached for his hand. "Do you see it?" she asked softly. "I see it," Eli replied, squeezing her hand gently. "We've changed them, just by being human." They moved to the edge of the plaza, where a fountain of glowing liquid spiraled into the sky. The water shimmered with colors, reflecting the light from Lyra's dress and the crystalline towers around them. Eli felt a sense of peace he had never known. Humans had come to this world as strangers, observers, and teachers. And now, they were celebrated, not for power, not for technology, but for the quiet, extraordinary strength of emotion and connection. Lyra looked at Eli, her eyes soft in the glow of the fountain. "Do you remember when you first said it?" she asked, a small smile playing on her lips. Eli blinked. "When I said I couldn't stop staring at you?" "Yes," she said, laughing softly. "Do you still feel the same way?" Eli felt warmth rush to his cheeks. "Honestly, I still can't stop staring at you." Lyra smiled, her dress shimmering brighter as if acknowledging his words. "That's very human of you," she said, "and it's exactly what the universe needs." They stood together in silence, watching the celebration below. Humans and Veyarans moved together, sharing gestures, laughter, and admiration. The city glowed with soft light, and the music carried through the air in waves of harmony. Eli felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Humanity had brought something unique to this world, something no machine, no alien, no force could replicate. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold, Eli realized that this journey had changed him too. He had learned that humans were capable of more than survival or exploration. They were capable of inspiring wonder, of teaching admiration, of connecting across worlds and species. Lyra leaned her head on his shoulder. "We've done well," she whispered. "And this is only the beginning. Humans can change the universe, not with force, but with heart." Eli nodded, feeling the truth of her words settle deep in his chest. "And it starts with noticing the small things," he said softly. "Admiration, connection, love even. That's what makes us strong." Lyra smiled, taking his hand in hers. "Exactly. Never forget it." The celebration continued long into the night, with humans and Veyarans sharing stories, laughter, and quiet moments of connection. Eli and Lyra moved through the crowd, observing the subtle transformations taking place. Humans had planted the seeds, and now the Veyarans were beginning to nurture them. Finally, as the plaza emptied and the lights dimmed, Eli and Lyra found themselves alone once again on the balcony of the embassy. The city below shimmered softly in the moonlight, quiet but alive. Eli turned to Lyra, feeling a mixture of awe and affection. "Do you think they'll ever fully understand us?" he asked. Lyra shook her head, smiling softly. "Perhaps not fully, but they will learn enough to respect and admire us. And sometimes, that's enough. Eli nodded, taking a deep breath. He looked at Lyra, the light of her dress casting soft reflections on her face. Honestly, he said, I still can't stop staring at you. Lyra laughed softly, leaning closer. That's very human of you, she said. And it's exactly what humans are meant to do, notice, admire, and connect. Eli smiled, feeling a quiet certainty. Humans had survived for so long not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they could see the beauty in the world and in each other. And now, on Vayara, that very human strength had changed an entire civilization. The stars above glittered in the alien sky, and Eli felt hope welling inside him. Humanity's journey through the galaxy was only beginning, but one thing was clear. Wherever humans went, they would leave a mark, not through force, but through admiration, connection, and the extraordinary power of the human heart. Lyra took his hand, and together they looked out over the city. The soft glow of the plaza, the subtle movements of the Vayarans, the shimmering towers, all of it was proof that humans had made a difference. And for Eli, that was more than enough. They had arrived as strangers. They had shared their gifts, and now they were celebrated, not for what they could destroy, but for what they could inspire. Humans had transformed Vayara, and in the process, Eli and Lyra had discovered the quiet truth of their own hearts. Admiration, connection, and love were powers stronger than any technology, stronger than any force. And under the alien sky, with the city glowing below, Eli whispered once more, softly but firmly, Honestly, I still can't stop staring at you. Lyra smiled, leaning her head gently against his shoulder. And that, she said, is the human way. Together, they watched the stars appear above Vayara, knowing that humanity's light, curiosity, admiration, and heart would shine wherever they went.